Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video, and we're back doing the monthly meta video. This is something that you guys seem to enjoy a lot, or at least many of you that watch my content seem to enjoy this series, so we are bringing it back. It's been 3+ months since I have made this series, and as I promised, I would bring it back to you this week, and that is exactly what is happening. So we're going to break down, as we do normally with this monthly meta series, we're going to break down each of the themes of the current themes in the game, and we're going to go through each of the cards. I'm going to gold either cards that have had significant changes or I think have had significant changes made to them within the current meta structure. So we're just going to hop right into it and see where the new cards, or where the cards are currently lying right now, in my opinion, based on the current meta. Now, as always, this is my opinion only, not the development of any other specific entity. If you guys think or disagree with what I'm saying, of course, always let me know down in the comments section. You guys always do that in these, and some of the stuff can be very highly debated, and that is, of course, just a matter of opinion. So your guys' opinion is probably going to differ from mine, but again, this is how I feel the current cards are within the current game. So let's just go ahead and start with Adventure. Alright guys, so starting off quickly with Adventure, as you see, there are some changes, some decently significant changes I have made to this tier list for the Adventure theme. The number one is, of course, Inuit Kenny. Inuit Kenny buff is something as significant to what Ink and Craig received in a couple of updates ago before he was nerfed back down. But I mean, Inuit Kenny is really good right now, in my opinion. The reduction of energy cost, yes, he lost some damage and some health, but being 3 energy cancel card, basically, is insane. He's extremely viable right now in the meta, and he's very, very good, so that's why he's all the way up to G tier for me. I did put in Thunderbird, of course. It's in the A tier, which is the newest card added to the game most recently. I think Thunderbird is a very unique card. It's a drone-like card, similar to Alien Drone, but for the Adventure theme, and yes, it does damage, and it's a headhunter that does damage over time every 5 seconds, or when it's, you know, used with a hanky or a Santa, something like that, then it could happen obviously more often. But I think Thunderbird is a great addition to the game and is a positive for this theme overall. There has been adjustments made to Shelly, Sheriff Cartman, and Buccaneer Bebe. That's why all 3 of these are highlighted. Sheriff Cartman moved from C tier to B tier for me. I don't think that Sheriff Cartman still is viable in Legendary Arena, even with his buff that he received. He's more viable in Bronze and Silver tier, but not in Legendary Arena. You're not going to see hardly anyone using him. Even if they have him to 6 or 7, he's just still not usable to me. I think the same thing with Sharpshooter Shelly. I don't think she got a huge buff. That she received a buff a couple of updates ago, but it may have been some time since I've done this tier list that she may have received that buff. And then Buccaneer Bebe got one in the most recent update as well with Inuit Kenny, and I don't think it was significant enough to move her up either. It makes her more playable though, and things like that. In the C tier down there in the gold that my camera is kind of over right now is Shaman Token. He did receive a buff fairly recently too. You could call it a buff. I don't know if I really would. Yeah, he received an increase to his health, I believe, was the only major adjustment that he got. But his Warcry is still, or his charge ability is still worthless. If it was a Warcry, it would be much, much better, but Shaman Token to me still is not a great card right now. I have moved Gunslinger Kyle down from B to C. I didn't brag at him, but that was one that received a change. But other than that, I don't think any other cards really received much of a change within this tier list for this theme from previously. So this is how I feel with Adventure. Let's move on to Sci-Fi. Alright guys, moving on to Sci-Fi, a lot of adjustments have been made to this theme. I have moved multiple cards up to G tier, which you can see gold bracketed there, in Enforcer Jimmy and Space Warrior Token. I think both of those are 2 of the best rare cards. In fact, probably 4 of the best rare cards in the entire game. I'm not saying the 4 best, but 4 of easily top 10 rares in the game right now are all in G tier for Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi has a bunch of very good rare cards. You've got Alien Queen Red, who received a buff. She's very good, even though she's not gold bracketed. They're in A tier. You have Space Warrior Token. You have Enforcer Jimmy, Visitors, Warboy Tweak, amongst others, I guess you could say. Maybe 4-Ass Monkey? Probably not. But there are a lot of good rare cards in this theme, and so that is why they've been moved up to G tier. Enforcer Jimmy is one of the best rares as far as value in the entire game. Space Warrior Token has seen a huge increase in play in Legendary Arena for obvious reasons. Right now, I think he might be better than the broken one, Witch Doctor Broken. I think Space Warrior Token's better than Witch Doctor Token overall right now. With the way the meta is shifting, you see a lot more Space Warrior Token play than you see Witch Doctor Token. I don't know if that's 100% the truth, but it seems that way for myself, at least from what I've been noticing. And then we've got Sizzler Stewart, who is a newer card added to this theme since the last time I did one of these. He is an A tier there, you can see there on the far left, and he is definitely a very solid card overall. I don't think he's super overpowered. He has some weaknesses, but he has some pros as well, and I really like the way Sizzler Stewart is playing right now in the game. And I have moved down Bounty Hunter Kyle from G to A tier, and there's a big reason for that. I feel like slow, methodical pushes are kind of dying. At least I've noticed that a lot of people are playing a little bit more energy efficient decks that are more cheaper energy cost overall, and a lot of that is because, again, with this theme, SciFi is been ramped up, I think, in usage right now in top 250 ladder, and because of that, because of their cheap rare card abilities, the 4 cards that are currently in G tier all have very high use rates right now in the game at top 250 ladder. So because of things like that, I don't think Bounty Hunter Kyle gets the same level of value that he once did. I think that even Ninju might be better or more used right now than Bounty Hunter Kyle in the current ladder structure. Now, he may be used widely in the lower arenas, in more silver and in bronze, but in legendary arena, I'm not seeing as much Bounty Hunter Kyle. I'm not saying he's completely removed, but especially with Alien Queen Red's poison being infinite and not a lot of people running Purify, I think that Bounty Hunter Kyle lost a decent amount of value with a couple of changes that have been made to other cards. So because of that, that's why I moved him down one. I still think he has a ton of value, but not as much value right now where the meta is focused. There's no other changes to B and C that I can remember, so let's just go ahead and move on to Mystical. Alright guys, looking at the Mystical theme, some adjustments have been made to this theme as well. We have moved up Zen Cartman into G tier. He probably should have been in G tier for a long time. Zen Cartman, to me, even though yes, he received a nerf where he lost some of his health, to me, he still might be the best overall value for a tank card in the entire game. Is he the best tank card in the game? I'm not necessarily saying that, but he has the best value of any tank card currently in the game, in my opinion. So Zen Cartman deserves to be higher up in the tier than he was, so that's why he's in G. I have moved down Witch Doctor Broken from G to A, and the main reason for that is because, again, I feel like his value is nowhere near to what it was. His charge ability takes a long time to really cast off. You're only going to get it once, maybe twice if you're lucky in his lifespan. There's just not a lot to really keep him alive enough to keep him viable in the current meta. He seems to be a lot more easily counterable and dealt with some shifts in the meta. Like I said, more cheap cost spam units seem to be the way of the land right now, especially in high tier legendary. So I think Witch Doctor Broken, because of that, is losing a slight amount of value. He still has some value there, but he's losing some of it. I think Cupid Cartman, his buff that he received actually moved him from B to A tier. I think he's a lot better of a card right now. He's more of an assassin flying unit, and that's the way you have to play him. You have to play him a little bit differently than other flying units and play him more as an assassin that has the ability to fly, because that's more or less kind of where his value is right now, or how his playstyle should be structured to get the most value out of Cupid Cartman. That's just my opinion. Jesus has been buffed since the last time I did a monthly meta, so I have moved him from C to B. I don't think he's good enough, really, even with his buff. With his, I believe he got increased to heal and increased to his base health were the 2 changes that he received. I think even with those 2 things, the fact that when he dies, he still respawns in the same spot, or resurrects at the same spot, I apologize. I don't think that still makes him as good. I think if he was able to respawn behind your new kid, maybe, that would make Jesus a much better card overall. But because he still respawns in the same spot, it leaves him too vulnerable to get destroyed again too easily, and I think then takes some of his value away. I think that maybe at some point Jesus will be a little bit better, but maybe it'll just be when people have him to a higher level. I mean, right now I think I have him only to level 4, as do many other people most likely. So once maybe more people have him to maybe 6, let's say, I think maybe we'll be able to find more ways to utilize him and make him more valuable. As of right now, to me, he's still in B. There were no adjustments to B and C that I can remember, so let's just go ahead and move on to Fantasy. Alright guys, shifting to Fantasy, and some changes have been made here as well. I have moved up Slave from A to B, and I have moved down the good old Elvin King Bradley from G to A. I think Elvin King Bradley, his nerf that he received, has moved him down. I still think he's still viable and still widely used in the meta. If you have him to 5 and 6, he's definitely playable in Legendary Arena. At any lower level, I would not use him. I don't think he's as valuable because with that increase to his overall movement speed, he dies too quickly if he doesn't have at least a little bit of health to actually give your range units the extra range and attack for the brief period of time that he's alive. But like Slave, for instance, if you have a level 5 Mr. Slave, he is insane. He's one of the best tanks in the game and someone that needs to be dealt with as quickly as possible because he can really pump out the healing necessary if you don't have a very strong assassin or a bunch of units attacking him to stop his overall heal. I think that definitely Mr. Slave is someone that a lower person trying to get out of silver into legendary, this is one of the top tanks you should really focus on if you want to run fantasy, or if you have fantasy to respectable levels. This is an amazing tank right now in the meta and someone you should focus on, in my opinion. Again, some of you may disagree with that. Of course, you'll let me know down below, as per usual. But the rest of the cards in G, I don't think any of them get adjusted right now. A seems to be pretty stable other than those two big changes. B and C are still around the same that I believe. There's no big changes here in fantasy, but let's just go ahead, move on to neutral. Alright guys, shifting to neutral, there have been some changes in the 3 cards that I have gold bracketed here. Satan is seen a ton in Legendary Arena right now for the value, as I mentioned earlier, because people are doing a lot of cheap swarm cards and things like that. When you got like Underpants Gnomes, people are using a lot of Space Warrior Token, using a lot of the cheap rare cards and things like that. Satan's at level 4 or even level 5 if you're lucky to have him, and even sometimes at level 3 can be nice to deal with a lot of those pesky units, and just his being able to cast that Warcry and being able to take some of those units out, or at least lower them down to a respectable level that then you can just chip them away, either with him specifically or another unit, makes him extremely valuable with the way the current meta is structured. So Satan, to me, has moved up a decent amount because of that value. The other 2 big changes, these 2 cards that are bracketed are about to receive buffs. Manbear Pig is going to receive AoE attack, from the sound of it, similar to Super Craig, but it's slightly different, or at least smaller, and that I think is really going to be hard to adjust to see where he's going to be in the meta. I still think he's high energy cost. Of course, it's 7 energy, the most expensive card in the game, so that could lose some value for him, because pretty much you have to run Pope Timmy with him to be viable. So maybe the old Manbear Pig Pope Timmy combos will be running rampant in the game. I guess we'll find out. So as of right now, I adjust him to C to B because I think the buff he's going to receive is going to definitely make him better. It's not going to make him worse, but I don't know how much better it's going to make him. So as of right now, to me, he's still only B tier. And President Garrison's receiving a buff upcoming as well in the upcoming balance changes next week. And because of that, I think President Garrison could see an even bigger jump than just from just C to B. I think President Garrison's going to be possibly A tier here coming up very soon. I think that the fact that he's no longer going to be targeting the new kid with his charge ability is a big, huge buff in itself, and his base attack damage is also going up, which means his Whirlwind Spin AoE attack will do more damage. So I think President Garrison could be a pretty solid card coming up here in the current meta, and I'm kind of excited to see where both these 2 cards from neutral end up, and I think that they could obviously be nice and a positive for them. I also moved Mackie up from C to B. I think Mr. Mackie, if you have him to 5 or 6, can be pretty nice. There's an abundance of kid units in the game, and it's always nice to be able to have them do a little bit of extra damage. Would like to see Mackie's receive maybe a mild health buff. Outside of that, he doesn't need any adjustment whatsoever, and then I think he would definitely be a much more balanced card, but I still think Mackie has some value, so I moved him up a little bit. Those are the only changes I can think of. I do have Classy gold bracketed down there in C tier. She did receive a nerf, I guess. She increased her movement speed, but her enrages faster or earlier, which I still don't think makes Classy better, because I think the fact that she's moving quicker then still makes her get to the enragement faster, so that's where the buff was, but she still dies way too quickly, so I still don't think she has a lot of value right now where the meta is. That's why she's still in C tier. I did move, I believe, Nathan and Barbrady down from B to C. I don't think they have a lot of value right now in this game. Even though Nathan has a ridiculous range and the AoE damage, Barbrady, you're just not seeing him played because he's really not that good right now. He's too easy to cancel, and he doesn't seem to do a whole lot when he dies and stuff like that. So that's why he's in C tier. That's the adjustments to neutral. Let's look at superheroes, where the biggest amount of changes, in my opinion, have been made. Well, many of you may think that superheroes is a dead theme right now, and it's the most recent theme. It was recently added, what, not even a year ago now? And people are already saying that it's dead. Well, it'll be a year here in a couple of months. But some people have already thinking that superheroes is already dead right now in the game. I don't think it's completely dead. I think that it's definitely taken a big hit. I'm not going to argue that by any stretch of the imagination, but I still think superheroes is still playable. There are 3 cards in G tier. I have moved Mysterion up from A to G. I think Mysterion has a good amount of value. If his Death Wish isn't canceled out, he's a very valuable card and can do a lot of damage for you, and a lot of people have him, so I still think he's still viable and still usable in this theme. Professor Chaos is probably the best superhero card right now, in all honesty. Since Dr. Timothy is going to be receiving a nerf, I have moved him down from G to A. Until the balance changes take place next week, Dr. Timothy is the strongest superhero card right now. But once he receives that health nerf, he is going to go down a little bit. So he has gone down. I've dropped Human Kite down because of his nerfs that he received. I have moved Lava up from C to A. It's the biggest jump in this theme. Lava is very valuable in this game. It's receiving a buff. People underutilize it as it's a trap card. It's not a spell. It's different, and it's very good defensively. I have it in my main deck that I've been running right now, and I like it a lot. I think that it was underrated even by myself. I'll admit to that. But I think that Lava has a lot of value, and as a common card, it's something we can easily obtain, and I think it's good overall. Mosquito has received a nerf since the last time I did this, so he has moved from G to B. Mosquito is not as valuable anymore, in my opinion. If there's an adjustment made to his swarm, he'll be fine. That's the only adjustment needs to be made to him to make him bring him back more balanced, in my opinion. Swarm attack received an attack decrease. If that was removed and brought back to the normal way it was, I think the Mosquito would be fine. His health decrease was necessary, 100% for his base health, but the Mosquito nerf to his swarm was horrible, and that has really made him unplayable right now, or not as valuable as he was once before. You could play him probably in the lower arenas, but I would absolutely not play him in Legendary. He's going to die way too quickly. The 2 newest cards for this theme were added at around the same time with this most recent Battle Pass, and that, of course, was Tweak and Craig, and Super Craig and Wonder Tweak. Wonder Tweak both of them are in B tier. I think that Super Craig is the better of these 2 cards, and maybe flirting with A, but not quite there yet. And to me, Captain Diabetes is still the worst card in this theme, and one of the worst cards in the entire game. So that is where I have superheroes at. Now let us look real quickly and wrap it up by saying what is the best theme currently in the meta, in my opinion, and why. Alright guys, so here is where the debate is really gonna heat up in the comments section and in everywhere else. To me, the best theme in the meta now is no longer Mystical. Fantasy has overtaken Mystical, and people will be like, Druzy, why are you even saying this? Some have thought Fantasy has been the best theme for a long, long time. I think Fantasy is a much better spot than Mystical right now for a lot of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Because you're seeing cheaper build style decks, Mystical is slowly dying slightly because of that. Because Witch Doctor Broken has taken a step back, in my opinion. Because some of the other legendary cards within that theme, other than maybe Dusa, aren't as valuable as they once were. You're not seeing a lot of people running Energy Staff as often, running those big pushes, building up that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's dead, it's just not as viewed right now in the current meta. 2 of the top used themes right now in the game, Fantasy and SciFi, which is why SciFi got a bump up. SciFi has very good rare cards. They're very cheaper in swarm potential and the ability to just get a quick push, get a quick bar. You're not seeing big methodical pushes anymore, or as much as you once were. Fantasy has the ability to do both. Have that quick push potential, be good defensively with Cock Magic and Transmog. Then you have things like Shield Maiden Wendy, who's still extremely good. Dragon Slayer Red, maybe the best card in the entire game. You have Underpants Gnomes, is widely used, very strong card. There's a ton of reasons why Fantasy is in such a better spot right now to me than Mystical. Mystical has the 1 cancel. Its whole big focus is to build that methodical push, heal things up, and then just decimate the opponent, and then there's nothing you can do about it. It's still played, it's still usable, but not as valuable to me with the way the meta has shifted slightly. Because you're seeing more cheap swarm potential to where that's why Satan is so much better, like I mentioned earlier. Adventure is in a much better spot right now because of Thunderbird and because some of the other changes, but it still has a ways to go. But Adventure is in a little bit better spot to me, and that's why it's in 4. Superheroes is not a dead theme, but is closing in on it. If they continue to take away any of the power that the theme has, it's not necessarily balancing it, it's just making it to where no one's going to freaking play it. And if it's kind of upsetting to me that every time a lot of us, including myself, have gotten a card to the next level of 6 or 5, say for a rare card, then it seems like Red Links tries to take it all away. And that seems to be kind of the case with superheroes. We're starting to get superheroes to a playable level for a lot of us in Legendary Arena, and then they're nerfing the cards. I mean, is that what's going to happen to Super Craig next? Is all of a sudden I'm going to get him to level 6 and he's going to be, you know, nerfed on his AoE attack or something like that? I feel like that could happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but maybe it will. But I think that Superheroes is struggling right now. Neutral to me is in last. Will probably be in last for a long time, but it's closing on Superheroes. To be all honest, Neutral could be better than Superheroes slightly, and to some degree. There's a lot more played cards out of Neutral, and obviously because Neutral can be played in any deck, Neutral has some cards that are widely played right now in the meta, especially in top 250, top 500. Most of that is mostly 2 cards with Hanky and Satan right now, but you see a ton of Neutral play, not a lot of Superheroes, and a whole lot of Sci-Fi, Fantasy, and Mystical right now, where the meta is shifted. And I think Adventure's going to see a bump up with some play, not because necessarily of buffs that it has received, but because of, I think, the new card, Thunderbird, might be a card we're going to see a lot more, and people will start shifting towards Adventure being one of their themes. So we might see a lot more Adventure Mystical, I think, coming up here soon, and if we're not already seeing it. So that is my thoughts and feelings on the best themes in the current meta and all the cards in the current game. But let me know, of course, as always down below, what you guys think of this breakdown video. If you agree, disagree, which you guys normally do a fantastic job of. I know you guys have been wanting this series to come back. I plan on trying to withhold it and keep it going every month here going forward and bring it back into the fold of the videos here on the channel. If you guys have anything else you guys would also like to see here on the channel, please always let me know down below in the comment section as well. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all the support I receive here. It has been fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching this video today. And until next time, guys, my name is Druzy.